a year ago now, I sat down and filmed 15 things we don't do in our family and why, and I thought it would be fun to follow up on that with 15 things that we do practice in our family and why. And a lot of these are fairly lighthearted, but some of them might be a little bit controversial, and so I hope I can just bring these across in truly just a loving, encouraging way. The goal of this video is definitely not to condemn anyone or make it look like we have it all together. We are learning and growing and have so far to go, and we mess up probably daily, but the point is to pick yourself back up, and these are some of the things that we're striving for here in our home, and I hope they can be encouragement to you as well. I would also love to learn from you guys, so while you're watching, go comment down below one thing that you do in your family and why, and we can all encourage each other down there in the comment section. We'll start off with a pretty easy one, which is that we eat meals together. Normally, at least twice a day, we will all be sitting around the table, or at least all in the same room. I grew up with this, and so it's just kind of a given for me, but I was curious what Google would have to say on this subject, and so I Googled it. Turns out they agree that they think it's a good idea, but this is some more of what they said. Some of the specific benefits of family dinners: better academic performance, higher self-esteem, greater sense of resilience, lower risk of substance abuse, lower risk of depression, and the list goes on and on. And personally, my favorite thing about eating meals together as a family has got to be the relationships cultivated over this. I remember so many laughs around the table, even just sharing bits and pieces of our day, and we're loving doing that with our kids now. I feel like it's also just a great opportunity to get to know your kids better. There's some great, even family like conversation starter cards if you feel awkward at first. I know it's an easy one. I know a lot of families do it, which is wonderful, but if you don't already, I would highly encourage you to try at least one meal a day and see what happens. Number 2 is to apologize. And I know as parents, sometimes we want our kids to think we have it all together and that we know it all, because surely then they will respect us more and think our advice is valid. I find that quite the opposite is actually true. When they see us own up to our mistakes, apologize to them, but also hearing us apologize to our spouse, I think that really makes them respect us more, and also just models to them what apologizing should look like, which is something that they will need to know how to do all throughout their life. Number 3 is to work and work out together. If you watched my morning routine video, you've already seen the working out in action. They don't join me every single day, but I would say probably about 3 days a week at least that they will come and join me as I'm working out. Y'all, I apologize if the lighting is wonky, by the way. I'm also trying a new microphone. Anyways, we're trying to improve quality over here, guys, so let me know if this is better or worse than what I usually do. But working out together has given so many laughs for me, and it's just been a sweet way to get energized up for the day together. And then working, I've touched on this before, I am a little bit passionate about it. I feel like as a society, it's kind of one of two things. Either we feel bad asking our kids to help, and we feel like, well, we're the mom, so we should be able to do it all. And then the other side of it is it's just easier. It's quicker to just quickly do it ourselves rather than taking the time to teach them, and probably we'll have to kind of follow up on their job the first few times. But I think we're doing our kids a huge disservice by both of these mentalities. Teaching them a good work ethic and then having fun with it is actually a huge gift that we can give them. Some of the best memories are made in the kitchen with my kids, baking up something fun. And so while not all chores are as glamorous as others, they're all important and all something that our kids will benefit from for the rest of their lives. And it also does, it makes less work for mom and dad as they learn to do their work well. And I also find that it's such a good way to learn my kids' personalities and their problem areas and preferences and all the things that I can then take with me throughout the rest of the week and know what areas to pray for specifically for my kids, what areas to maybe explain a little better how to do this job, what areas to praise them in. It really is pretty eye-opening. Number 4 is to allow messes. There are few things that stifle creativity more than a yelling mom telling her kids to clean up their messes. Don't get that out, it's too messy. In fact, it seems like our society is so quick to just shove screens in front of our kids instead of encouraging them to be creative, play in the mud, invent something, go outside. Someone recently asked me, when's the last time you saw a kid in a cast? And it hit me. I mean, when I was a kid, I wore a cast. I had a whole row of stitches. I even had a nail jammed in my foot, which I would not recommend. But so easily now, we as parents just shove screens in front of our kids, deeming them safer than outdoor adventure for our kids, when the reality is that more kids are on antidepressants and anxiety meds now than ever before. And I just wonder, could we turn that all around just by letting our kids be kids again, messes and all? Some thoughts I've been having recently. Number 5 is we avoid candy in our home. And I know, I don't blame you if you have a stash of candy in your home. A lot of my health choices, by the way, food choices in our home come from my own background and health issues, that kind of thing. And so everybody has their story and no one's story is the same. But this is something that for me is an easy no. My kids have not grown up with candy, so they don't miss it. Now, if we go to a parade or somewhere where they're gifted candy, they will have a few pieces and then honestly we throw out the rest. Does that seem wasteful? Maybe, but in my mind there are no health benefits of eating this, and so throwing it in the trash is not near as detrimental as eating it all and then filling cavities or all the other health things that could come from that. For Easter, we love hiding Easter eggs and that kind of thing. I will buy all chocolate, and yes, we do have chocolate in our home. I try to do, Lily's chocolate or some of the healthier options, but it's not always that. And then I will just put those inside of the little Easter eggs. They'll have some of them on Easter, and then afterward, we'll just make a big batch of chocolate chip cookies or something like that. I'll use it in baking some way, and so that's kind of my own little hack. But yeah, we stay away from actual hard chocolate in our home. Number 6 is to celebrate each other's achievements, big or small. We don't wait for big events to tell our kids how proud we are of them, how grateful we are that they are ours, and how much we love them. Really focusing on what the other person is working on, whether that's between Josh and I or whether that's between us and our kids, and really study them like a book. You'll know what they are working on, their struggles, how they're trying to work through this, and you can better then congratulate them when they see little victories, and it also just encourages them to keep improving even more on all of these areas. So sweet little celebrations frequently. Number 7, probably one of my personal favorites, which is to create family traditions. I know I've talked about this multiple times before, but it is so fun, whether it is sleeping around the Christmas tree the night before Christmas, or our recent tradition that we've embraced this year of sleeping here in the porch on the first night of a new season and making that a whole party situation, or as simple as eating bowls of oatmeal Sunday mornings, or if we're pitching our tent for our 4th of July camp out that happens every year. I find that traditions take so much brain work out of creating memories as a family because we already know what we're planning, and as the years go by, you even figure out little details a lot quicker, and a lot of it can just be kind of done without having to think through it so much. But also the kids look forward to these dates like you would not believe. It is such a special thing, each of these little things that we look forward to as a family, and I try to incorporate some new traditions, maybe 1 or 2 a year. So we'll see how long that keeps up. Even just the little thing of our Sunday morning baked oatmeals, Abby will come up and beg for, can we have our oatmeal today? which is super sweet. They love them all. Number 8 is one that takes a lot of self-control but pays off dramatically, and that is to speak softly instead of yelling. I can never quite understand when a kid is throwing a temper tantrum and the parent yells back, because they're just being the same, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. I think that if kids learn by example, then how is our yelling teaching them not to yell? However, I know it is so hard not to lose it sometimes. If you need to step away for a moment from the situation to compose yourself, that is totally fine. Who is it? I feel like it's like a hero of the faith whose mom they talked about. Somebody let me know in the comments below if you know what I'm talking about. She would feel overwhelmed in her kitchen and she would sit down and put her apron over her head and pray. And the kids knew that when mom has her apron over her head, you don't ask questions. And I think there's something to that. Like, that's totally acceptable to step away first before you respond. But then when you do respond, to just kneel down, get eye level with them and speak softly, or even whisper if you really need to get their attention. It does wonders. Over and over, I am shocked by the response that this gets. And if at first you don't succeed, try again. They will learn, and I just feel like it's a much better way of being an example to them, but also getting their attention than when it just becomes a whole riot of yelling at each other. Number 9 is one that I sometimes get questions about, and it's about budgeting our money. What's that saying? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I think that's very applicable with money. It is something that we do in our home, is budget our money. I think it's super helpful to sit down with your spouse, figuring out together the things that are important to you. So is that trips? Is that name brand clothing? Is that payments on a new, latest and greatest vehicle? What are those things? Is it land? Is it healthy groceries? Figuring out what things are the most important to you can be so helpful then in creating this budget, because then you'll both agree as far as the balance of where the most money goes to. We use an app called YNAB, Y-N-A-B, and I think it stands for You Need a Budget. Anyways, that's been great as far as it's so easy to keep track of. We'll just put in our budget at the beginning of the month, and then every time we purchase something, we try to put that in there, and then it'll deduct, so you can constantly have a running balance of how much you have left in each category. Do our absolute best to stick within that budget, and that's been super helpful. Number 10 is only speak well of others in public. I feel like this is another one that people might get mad at. But the truth is, you're living with these people, and speaking down on your husband, on your kids, is not really going to benefit anyone, including yourself. This does not mean you don't talk to a trusted friend or a mentor about problems you have. I'm not saying you go and act like everything is right all the time when things are very wrong, but it does mean that you don't make crass jokes about how terribly much work your kids are, or how bad your husband is at this, because even when it is a joke, it's just not building up. And so I would just rather, in a group setting like that, like, say the cute things my kids did, or how my husband blessed me that week, instead of the hard parts. Not saying it's bad to acknowledge hard days or anything like that, but I don't know, am I making sense on that one? I'm not sure how to bring across what I mean, but I do just feel like it is really important for me to speak well, especially in situations where it's a group setting or people that are not my mentors or super close family or friends. Number 12 is everyone has their own space to put things that are special to them. I am so big on decluttering. Like, I say minimalism very loosely, but kind of that mindset. However, I do feel like it's important for my kids to know that not everything will just get thrown out with the wind. And so each of them has a special little box. It is a designated amount of space, so it's not endless, but where they can put papers, crafts, little trinkets, whatever it is that are really special to them. That's their safe space, so to speak. And number 13 is to teach our children by example. I feel like this is kind of a redundant theme all throughout this video, but the values of honesty and perseverance and good character and result of hard work and good manners, godly character, responsibility for actions, respect, the list goes on, but there's so many areas that actions speak so much louder than words. These are all things that are important to me to teach my kids and to be for my husband, and so something that's on my mind a lot and that's important in our family. Number 14 is to honor boundaries. Josh and I sat down at the beginning of our marriage and talked through a lot of boundaries. Again, things that were important to us. These might not be the exact same for you, and that's okay. Figuring out what boundaries we want in our marriage, in our home, for our kids, around screens, like so many things that you can just talk through and again, hear where each other's heart is and then create boundaries off of that and stick with the boundaries and check in with each other. 2 examples of what we do in our home is limit screen time for the kids. They do use, so we're doing Math UC for math this year, and so they do have their own iPads, which they're not called their own, they're just called the math iPads, but it's very locked up, if you will. They can't really do anything on there. The iPad always gets used in a public space and it gets stored in our school cupboard. And so it's just a couple safeguards, but we want to set the standard high for that early on. And just in general, even how much we watch movies, like Sunday night, if we're home, is usually our movie night of the week, which is something we enjoy. And we will, bring out the snacks. We'll have a great time doing it, but it's not a nightly occurrence by any means. Like I said, it doesn't have to be the same for everyone across the board. Just take the time to create the boundaries, write them down, and then check in with each other occasionally and see how we're doing on them. Number 15 is to love God above all else. I often think of that if I reach the end of my life and would have acclaimed all the fame, wealth, and honor of the world, but lost the hearts of my children, I would have failed. And it's something that I think of a lot. Teaching them to love the Lord and to live for Him is truly my highest calling, and one that I do not take lightly. A simple way that we work on this is family devotions together. We like to do it in the morning. I know a lot of people like to do it in the evenings, probably just depends on your lifestyle a lot. But yeah, a lot of that again comes down to example, teaching them the truth. I try not to say, do this because mommy said so, but rather do this because this is what the Bible says. This is what God is asking us to do. And as much as possible, taking all the even day-to-day things back to the Word of God and building a foundation not on mommy and daddy's thoughts and feelings, but on the Word of God. And pray that that builds a firm foundation, plants seeds of truth in their hearts, and that they walk in that for all of their days. So anyways, those are 15 things we do in our family and why. Obviously, there's a lot more, but I hope that these 15 were an encouragement to you. I can't wait to read through the comments and see what you guys do in your families and also learn back from you. But thank you so much for being here today. I hope you were inspired, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, friends.
Golden thing.